All right, so I wanted to show you this car. I wanted to share it with you. This is a really special car. It is a S2000, of course, but it is a 2000 model. This customer just picked this up. He's from Connecticut. He flew down to Florida to pick this car up. Look at the mileage. 18,200. A Vortex supercharger. I haven't seen one of these in years. This was like the very first kit for these cars, these guys in Comtech. Is that the water pump running?
Yeah, the pump's running.
Yeah. This is the aftercooler. This is where you put the water, so if you tip it off, you'll see the water circulating. That's why you hear that the key is on. But this is a early kit. What is more interesting, this is, again, I wanted to share with you, even though this was purchased at a dealer and they were quick to let him know they changed the oil, he watches our videos, and it's kind of cool because we're sharing information and educating people. He was pretty sure that this didn't get changed. Of course, we're going to confirm that. I don't think this has ever been changed. Here's the clutch fluid. Check this out. See that? When do you think the last time that was changed?
What kind of dealer did this come from?
I don't know. I don't want to say.
This is fully serviced with an AC Delco filters. Maybe it was a Chevy dealership.
Yeah, possibly. He knows about the filter. Again, he watched our videos. He's going to drive this back to his hometown. Then he's going to change the oil. He knows about the Honda filter, and then he's going to change it with his favorite oil. But what we're going to do is change the retainers and keepers to the AP2s. You've heard us talk about that. Can't tell you exactly what year they improved it, but I know the early 2000s and some of the 2001s are definitely affected by the retainers that fail. Remember, if you fail a retainer, you pretty much lose the engine. There's no fixing it when the valve drops down and the piston comes up. It's toast. So peace of mind. Even though it's only got 18,000 miles, it's peace of mind knowing that it's not going to have that issue. So we're doing retainers and keepers, brake flush, clutch flush. Almost certainly the trans has never been changed, as well as the diff. So that's pretty basic, but again, it's peace of mind, and we're flattered that he watches us and trusts us with this car. I mean, look at the mileage. I mean, it reflects on the car. It's as original as it gets. It's a one-owner car, owned by an older guy, which is usually, you know, the story. These cars either get driven a lot or hardly driven at all. There's not a whole lot of in between. They've either got 20,000 miles or 100,000 miles, not a whole lot of in between. Look at this original plastic window, but it's pretty clean. If you look up, there's a little bit of sand here. This is something you don't want to wipe this, because this is sand. It will scratch here. If you look on the angles, there's a couple of scratches. Best thing to do to stay on top of this is to wash it with soap and water, blow it off. Then there is a few plastic polishes you can buy. One I used to use back in the day is by Meguiar's. It's called Plast-X. Basically plastic polish, and it's almost like putting a wax on here, but I don't want to rub this because it will scratch it. Not a whole lot of plastic windows left. When we do a top, we change it to the glass back window, but the top, it looks perfect. It'd be a shame to take that off just because of how original this car is. I mean, original Honda key fob. But yeah, it's exciting to see this stuff, and I keep saying this, it's flattering when a customer would travel this kind of distance to have us do their car.
The AC Delco filter, this is from a GMC dealership.
It is really?
Yes, from a GMC.
It's got the tag on the back?
Yep.
So that's...
I had to look up the address because there's, in Palm Beach, there's a Schumacher Automotive Group, Volkswagen, Chevrolet, Buick, GMC, Subaru, everything in that area is all Schumacher.
Got it, okay. So it's... I'm not saying that filter's wrong first. Well, it's wrong. I'm not going to say it's bad.
Just when you look and see AC Delco and you come from a dealership, you're like, oh, did it come from a Chevy dealership?
Yeah. But you got to use the Honda filter. It's not that expensive. It's peace of mind. Again, just knowing that it's got the right filter and it's not going to have any kind of starvation. And we're talking starvation at high RPMs. 8,000, 8,500, 9,000. That's where some of the small filters or the wrong filter can cause a problem. looking at this car, meeting the owner, is probably not going to run this thing hard. But again, it's just a case of it's doing it right. It's doing it right, and it's peace of mind. It's the OCD-ness, it's the pickiness, whatever you want to call it. It's knowing that it's done right, and it's being comfortable with what has been done. So with the valve cover off, and of course the whole mechanism off here, you can get a good look at the valves and retainers here. Let me get a close-up look. Again, I'm doubtful that you would have a problem with these, with them having such low miles, but you can see, I mean, we're used to seeing these, you can see actually how thin these are. They're almost flat. Well, when they're bad, we've often seen that middle section, which is the valve right there, that will actually drop below the retainer, and then the retainer kind of curls up around it. We've seen them bend. Now, I don't have an exact number how many we've tested and how many we've changed, how many have been bad. I think the last 10 years, I think I've seen 2 completely fail and wipe out engines, which is kind of like a, you know, it's just enough to remind you. But we'll go ahead and retain them. Yeah. We'll go ahead and change them all, put the new ones on, and save these and give them back to him just so he can have them back. Now, just so someone's going to say, why are they all painted? Did somebody go in there and paint them? This is actually the way they are factory. All the time that yellow comes off, but I see it's kind of weird that the intakes are yellow and the exhausts are blue. You see right there. Same as what they used to do with the ITR springs as well. But yeah, it's funny how they do that, but of course makes it easy so you don't mix them up. Alright, so I'm going to take a look at the fluid here. I'm just going to put a little bit of it in here so we can get an idea, but see how dark it is in there. This is another reason why we keep telling you to do this. If I do this here, you can see, I'm not going to drip it out, but you can see how dark that is. Well, it should be close to clear, and the problem is when it mixes, this is obviously all kinds of things that are mixing together, but it breaks down the seal in the master cylinder. This is like a big syringe. When you're pressing on your brake pedal, this is like a big syringe. This is basically, obviously it's the reservoir, but this is putting pressure on that syringe, pushing on the slave cylinder, which is kind of like the reverse of that. Each brake has what would be the slave cylinder. Obviously that's called a caliper. So the seal in there is breaking down, you're pushing that fluid through everything, and a leaky caliper can be very expensive. So this is why we stress to flush this out. Now when you're flushing it, you got to be careful that you do not pull air into the system. If you do, you will lose your braking system. There is a procedure how to do this. It is in the Honda manual, and there is some tips online how to do it. I'm not going to share that with you, not because it's a trade secret, but it's just the fact if I show you and you get it partially right and then lose your brakes and then you're stuck for the weekend. Now you got to take the car to the shop. So if you know how to do it, I'm going to tell you to do it. If you don't know how to do it, do a little bit of research. It's not that difficult, but there is a procedure. And again, the clutch will be next. We're going to do that clutch fluid. I'll show you that once the brake is flushed. Now that is a full quart of fluid that has gone through it, and that is still the color of the fluid coming out of this thing. So it's definitely grimy, and you can see in the reservoir it's still pretty bad. You can just start to see the bottom. We pump this down and try and clean the inside of that as much as we can, but of course it takes a little bit of time to dilute it, and without removing that thing and completely clean it and put it back in, and then you introduce a lot of air into the system. We don't want to do that. So it takes a little bit of time, but it is worth it. It does take a little bit of fluid to go through it, but it definitely makes the difference. You'll see that in a minute. So I wanted to show you this. First off, look how clean that is. The grime on the bottom, that's what I talked about. We can't get that all the way out, but now the fluid is clear. You can see the bottom. The clutch right here, we just pumped it all the way out. I'm going to go ahead and clean that cylinder as much as we can and then start putting the fresh fluid in so it doesn't just contaminate the system again. Again, this is 18,000 miles. Just remember, this is something important you should do. It's not mileage, it's age. So stay on top of your fluids. Alright, so clutch fluid is done. You see that? See, that's what it should look like. Of course, it's stained on the bottom, but the fluid is clean. And it's amazing, as you start pumping this through, you can feel a difference in the pedal. The pedal gets a much smoother feel to it. It doesn't have like a scratchy almost like it's dragging up and down. It's smooth, so makes a big difference. Definitely worth it. Look into doing your fluids. Alright, so hopefully the camera is going to focus, but these are the two retainers. This one on the left is the AP1, this one is the AP2. If I flip this over, you can actually see how much thicker the retainer is on this edge. This is where a lot of the pressure is on this outer lip here, where it's holding the spring down. So this is the part that actually bends, and we've seen them crack. So the AP2 on that edge there, you can see that it's quite a bit thicker, it's quite a bit stronger. We've seen these go 9,000 RPMs, 9,500 RPMs, no problem at all. So there's nothing from stopping you changing this, even for your high performance motor. Often people say, well, it's only one side of the retainers that have a problem. Like we've said, do both sides, because they are thin on the intake and the exhaust. Change them both to the AP2 retainers. Now what's important is change the keepers at the same time. Typically we just buy the retainers and keepers together. We'll order them for a newer S2000. Typically we go order them for an 06 or an 07. That way we don't accidentally, you know, get the wrong part. They might not say, well, an 02 is close, we'll put that in the box. So 07 retainers and keepers, do the whole set, do all 16 retainers and 32 keepers, but that does give you an idea of how much thinner that is. Alright, so these were actually donated by a good friend of ours, Steve. He saw them being used and said, you know, you guys can probably benefit from them as well. They're magnets that sit over in these cam towers, and basically you're going to pull these up, and the magnet, as you see how quick that holds it, the magnet is going to hold all the rockers up together so that when you sit these down, this doesn't fall out. Well, we do have a trick how to do these without these magnets, but this sure makes life easy. But look at that, look how easy that is. The magnets, you can't see on that side, it's too dark, but the magnets holding these guys all up together, look at that. And they're super strong magnets, look at that. That makes life easier, doesn't it? Alright, so new retainers are in, and of course we do a valve adjustment. It wasn't too far off, but whenever you take something apart, put it back together, it will vary a little bit. Like we always say, new gaskets and new tube seals. When you put the valve cover back on, tube seals are the piece. We've shown you those that sit in the middle of the valve cover, and this pushes around the tube that sits up for the spark plug. Let me show you real quick. I think we've talked about it before, but the spark plug is down this hole when you're using your tool from the valve cover. This is where your spark plug comes out. That seal actually sits over here. It stops the oil from this valve cover going down into the spark plug hole. If you ever pull your spark plug out and there's oil around the plug, it's often that tube seal that's leaking. So always replace that, just out of precaution, just to make sure you don't run into that leaking issue. Alright, so one little tip when you're looking to buy one of these super low mileage S2000s that the mileage sounds almost too unbelievable to be true. Well, first off, these are the original tires, and if you look close you can see like a fine cracking on the tire. Well, if you look around the tire, it's on one side of the tire, so it could be on the passenger side or the driver's side, but this little plaque right here, this little indentation, this tells you the date of the tire manufacturer. So right here, the 2201, what that means is it was manufactured the 22nd week of 2001. You see that? That's what that means. So these are in fact the original tires, and that does line up with the 18,000 miles that this car shows. Again, look, you can see some cracking on there. Now these definitely need to be replaced. Rubber tires do have a shelf life, believe it or not. I don't remember the date or time frame, but they do want to be replaced even if they look pristine, because you will see that kind of damage on a tire. Alright, this one is all done. We just verified all the data, make sure everything lines up right. But it's pretty awesome. 18,282 miles. Perfect. We'll put this one outside. It's actually going to go into storage because he's coming back for it in a few weeks. And we don't want to drive anything, we don't want to keep anything. This is really important if you want to shop, by the way. Don't drive a car unless you absolutely have to. I have no interest in driving anybody's car just for the fact if you get rock chips, you know, a bird poops on it, a dog runs out, you hit another car, anything, don't want to get involved in that. You don't want to give a customer that kind of news, so don't drive it. That's about as far as I typically drive them, from here to here. Occasionally on our street outside, if we're doing a little bit of testing, we use that side street. That's about it. I don't like to drive cars. Alright, so this is the unit that he rented for 30 days. So if you do think about dropping a car off and leaving extra time, just if we're tight on room, which we are, this is perfectly adequate to keep a car in here. I mean, look, it has a light.
Didn't do anything, did it?
No, well, at night it'd probably make a bit of a difference, but this is nice, adequate room. It's not one of those units where you have 6 inches each side. We've got plenty of room for the door to go down, so keep that in mind. This is an option for you. So this is it right here, just to give you kind of like a location. That's the name of the place right here. You've seen us go to the Circle K, which is right up the road. The Circle K is that way. There you go, give you a landmark. There's Circle K. You guys have seen this road plenty of times. Super close to the shop. Okay, in fact, let's just go ahead and drive back to the shop. Speed this up. Okay, so we are back. The car is safe and sound. It's locked up. He booked it for a month, and I think it's about 230 bucks for the month with everything. So that's something to consider if it's one of those things where you're trying to arrange shipping a car to us. How long is it going to be here? When can you pick it up? That's just an option for you. And it is just the other side of those trees right there, not far away. We could walk it from here. That's of course if I didn't have a perfectly good truck to drive there. So that's something to consider. And like I stress this in every video, you know I can only keep up an act for so long. After this time, you got to understand our personalities. I treat your car like it's my car. And if you watch our channel, you get the personality of me. I'm very picky. I dare say I'm getting OCD, especially in my old age. I look at this stuff and I understand how much time it takes to save for this stuff, the sacrifices you make. Just remember this, if you see someone with a nice car, that mentality of, oh, that guy must be rich, he must have all kinds of money. That is the wrong mentality. It's not like that at all. I deal with people that have $5,000 cars. I've talked to people that have $100,000 cars, $500,000 cars. Everybody is in the same boat. A car guy makes terrible financial decisions, but his car is the most important thing to him. In most cases, that is everything the guy owns. I'm speaking from experience, trust me. So I look at every car, it's loved the same way. I don't care if it's a $500 car. You love it the same as the guy that owns a $100,000 car. Think about it. It's, if you make this much money, you spend this much money. Doesn't matter, the ratio stays the same. And again, I've done it from my very first Mitsubishi Colt all the way to my 2019 Z06. I tend to buy stuff way more money than I should, but I love it more than ever. Here's George right here. If you don't follow that series, check out George's Mugen Civic. There's more coming on that. It's a full series. We're enjoying that. He's enjoying that. But that means I've got to get back to the shop. We'll see you in the next video. Don't forget, hit subscribe on the way out. Support us, help us grow the channel. And we'll see you in the future.